Hey, I hope your week is going absolutely amazing. And I have something that I want to share with you that I think will make it even better. And if it's not going well right now, then it's going to make it awesome. um, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of wild things going on right now this time, and there's so much that people are dealing with. And in my meditations this week, I had some really powerful messages coming through. But I think to even dial it back a little bit further, for me, my entire purpose, my mission on this earth, to this point, from what I can tell, from what my soul calls me into, is really teaching people how to learn how to control their minds. And as an effect of that, also control their bodies, but ultimately control their minds. Like I've always been one of those people since I was a little kid that really understood how to be relaxed, understood how to meditate. I don't know why, it's just kind of a natural way of being. So for me, that's the paradigm or the scope that I look at the world is how can we take a step back, how can we take a breath and then go forward? Really find that center of being. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are amazing at this too. They have this gift. But when I start to see experiences in our society where there's a lot of just pandemonium, a lot of people not really sure, what's going on in their lives. They feel like a lot of fear, uncertainty, different areas. What comes up for me and the message that continues to come through is that, and especially now more than ever, we have to learn to control our minds. We have to. It's probably the most important thing you can do in your entire life. But beyond that, it's probably the most important thing you can do right now at this time. Because things are so uncertain, because things are up in the air, right? And when I talk about controlling your mind or learning to master your mind, I'm not talking about just sitting and meditating every single day and following some regimen that you feel like is going to be this path to enlightenment and you got to spend 20 minutes each day doing X, Y, and Z. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm not too big into dogmas as much as I'm really big into you personally finding out what feels good for you, what allows you to understand how your mind needs to work to best create the lifestyle and the reality that you want. So, a lot of people have been expressing so much fear and uncertainty around this period of time. And it just brings up a thought that, well, I want to give you an illustration of what's really going on so that you can best understand how to navigate the scenario regardless of what's happening in this world at this time. So just to give you a quick biology background in case you're not too familiar with this concept, our brains evolved over time. Whether you believe in evolution or not a big deal. Either our brains are this way or they evolved, whatever you want to say, it doesn't matter. Our brains have a function where we tend to filter information that we perceive from the outside world. And that filter likes to perceive immediate dangers, it likes to perceive what we need to avoid to stay safe. And when we allow that to operate in our mind more than the other areas of our mind, and the other areas of our mind create a strong sense of being, a strong sense of peace, a strong sense of calmness, when that other area that is filtering information is really active, then we are perceiving and feeling things that we're constantly trying to avoid, feeling fearful about, feeling uncertain about, right? If you are constantly perceiving a lion, in the room and you're trying to read a book, the last thing you're going to do is just sink in and forget that lion's there, right? And obviously, you shouldn't ignore the lion either because the lion is there. So I think that's where a lot of humans tend to have a little bit of a challenge with how do I handle dealing with this lion in the room that might eat me, and at the same time, really find peace, right? And this kind of goes for all aspects of life. There's so many different stimulus in our modern society that create that survival energy, whether it's money, whether it's certain things around relationships, whether it's like fear about health, all these different areas And people are constantly juggling back and forth. It's like, oh, I got to do this, or I'm not going to have this, and it's going to be scary. And they start using that filtering system. A lot of people refer to that filter system as the lizard brain or the monkey mind. It's kind of this automatic seeking, it's like a heat-seeking radar of what's wrong. What do I need to fix? What do I need to upgrade? And that is a very good part of our brain. We need to have that. But if that is what we're making the majority of our decisions about our life with, then we're really missing a lot of opportunity to create things on a much more harmonious, peaceful scale. And again, it doesn't mean you should ignore that monkey mind or whatever you want to call that more primitive brain that likes to make sure we stay safe. You should honor that as a very high level, evolved way of thinking and being, but you need to learn to make choices as to whether or not you're going to be reactive to that stuff and create a bunch of chaos and pandemonium, or if you're just going to handle the shit and then move back into peace and calmness, right? That's the dance that we tend to do. And I see this a lot, and people will argue with me, well, Josh, you've got this scenario going on right now in our present society, and you can't just ignore it. You can't just say, oh, this isn't happening. That's exactly what I'm trying to say right now. We're not even going to ignore it. But the feelings of calmness and peace are very, very important to our personal way of being and our entire global collective, or our collective ego, or collective consciousness, as I like to call it. Whether you believe that we're connected to people around the world or even people in your neighborhood, whether you believe that or not, it is scientifically proven that that's something that is happening. And it's even proven in a level where, a personal level, where if you think of somebody and then they call you, or then, they just show up in your path, that's some type of energetic connection. Call it what you will, but it's there. And people pick up on energies. You can walk into a room and you can feel when somebody's either happy or angry without them even saying anything, right? So we all have this energy. So my point is why it's so important for us to learn to master our minds, to control our minds, is that it's fine to use these tactical filters to be able to address certain things that need to be resolved, but to just hang on them and focus on them and put out energies of fear or uncertainty that come with that kind of mindset, that is where we start to cross the line into things that aren't so good. And so the whole purpose of learning to control your mind, learning to control your thoughts, learning to really master your mind, is understanding how to emit those feelings of harmony and balance and peacefulness, even when things are wild and crazy. And so the analogy I was getting ready to show you was, people like to argue all the time, well, how can you do that when things are so up in the air, so uncertain, so tumultuous? Okay, well, how often do we hear the story of the millionaire who, created this incredible life for themselves that most people dream about, but they get to that journey and they're completely unhappy. They're depressed, they're overwhelmed, they hate their lives, right? Because they didn't truly find that peace. They didn't truly master their mind enough to stop just focusing on the material game, the material world. So they mastered the material world, and they probably did it with that monkey mind by just constantly just like diving in and going and creating and addressing problems and shifting, adapting and moving. And that's what our society has kind of been taught to do with all this stimulus that's out. I'm a really big fan of technology and how technology benefits us, but it is a tool. And if we don't learn how to use that, and we're constantly focusing on it and being distracted by it, and we're not choosing how it works for us, then we end up in a state where, we've created all this stuff, we've created all these mindsets, but we're not truly peaceful inside. We're not truly whole feeling. So that whatever's happening. And that's, for some people that might be a bit of a stretch, but if you really think about that millionaire who at once thought, if I achieve this goal, I will find wholeness and peace in my life, is now like more distraught than ever because they realize there is no true result in resolving things in the physical realm. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have physical success and material happiness. Like you should definitely have that. Everybody is worthy and deserving of that. That's our birthright. But when that's your main focus of how you choose to live your life and feel inside is how are things showing up in the physical world, then you're always going to be at a state where you are never fully complete. You're never fully whole. You're never feeling harmonious and balanced, right? So even in the craziest times in my life, when I put these practices of learning to control my mind, of mastering my mind into play, I'm able to create a way of being that still feels relaxed and calm and peaceful. Even though shit might be getting weird in the outside world, like, just address it as you go. It doesn't have to change your way of being. It doesn't have to change your thought process. It doesn't have to cause anxiety. I'm not saying that you should feel bad if it does. What I'm saying is know there is a better way. Know there is an opportunity for you to do that, where you can find peace even in the chaos. You can just chill and be like, you know what? That's really not the best scenario right now. The whole world is in, a state of confusion and uncertainty, but at least I know within that I'm going to be okay. And when you want to get a little esoteric for a minute, when you start to come from that place and you view the world from that place, you will begin to source resources. Miraculous things will come to you. And I believe that comes from the Holy Spirit. I believe that comes from an energy around us that cannot be necessarily seen by everyone, but it just happens. You feel it, you know it, it's there. But you call it what you will. Call it whatever energy you want, source energy, God, universe, whatever feels good to you, but it's true. When you start to really come from that place and you create from that place and you live your life from that place, the resources will show up for you. And that doesn't mean you're not constantly taking action in life and doing things, but you're doing them from a place where you take the actions knowing that you have control. Everything's going to be okay, even when things get kind of chaotic and weird. And that's how, you see these people who are massively successful at life in so many areas. It's because that's what they do. No matter how weird things get, they keep coming back to that center point where they just control their minds and they don't get reactive from that monkey mind. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Sure, sometimes they get reactive. Sure, sometimes things get a little bit intense for them. I'm going to move because the sun is starting to mess with my phone. Hold on. But at the same token, the lighting's getting wild now. The sun's moving on me. Hold on. We're going to move over here in the shade. But in the same token, it's like you have to learn that dance, right? You've got to learn that dance of learning how to really master your mind, control your mind. So it's fine to have erratic thoughts. It's fine to have thoughts of wanting to stay safe and wanting to fix things and solve things. But if you don't have the ability to come and do it in a harmonious, peaceful way, and this is a good example, or a good way to tell if you're not fully mastering your mind. If you're sitting in bed at night after a long day and thoughts are running through your head of, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? All these fear things, or all these things you see in media are creating more and more anxiety or hysteria, or you're just talking about it. Almost, what's the word? I don't know that word. But excessively is essentially what I'm trying to say there. It's like you get this almost incessant focus on things, and it gets super intense. That's how you know that you're constantly coming from that other mind, because ultimately you should be feeling a state of peace from the things that you're doing and saying. And if you're not, then that's how you know you're focused too much into that survival mind, that filter, that monkey mind, that lizard brain. And so when we learn to master our minds, we learn how to operate in that, from that filter brain at times, but transition into a state of peace and ease and flow and harmonious balance, right? So if you really understand that principle, then you can start to control the feelings you have, maybe when you're laying in bed at night and it's tough to sleep because you just think about all the things that are going on in the world, or what you're going to have to deal with tomorrow. And you're never constantly focusing on all those external things. You're just focusing on what you can control in the moment. So one quick example before I jump off here. I want you to think of something that's kind of stressing you out in your life right now. Think about it this moment. Okay? Now maybe you don't feel as charged by that because you're here and we're relaxed and we're just chilling. But I want you just to see the difference. So think about a way that you want to solve that problem. Or maybe you don't know how to solve that problem, something that you're dealing with. All right, so you're thinking about that. Now you feel a little bit out of presence from this video. So come back to this video, forget what we were just talking about. Just don't even worry about that problem. It's not here right now. Whatever you were dealing with, it's not here. That's another time, another place. You'll know how to deal with it when it comes. Come back to this video right now. Come back to this present moment. And I want you to really just think about how perfect everything is right now. That you're breathing, that you're alive, that you have the ability to just communicate, to watch this video, that the technology has brought us together to be able to find a higher ground for ourselves and for the world. And that's awesome. And do this for me too. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and breathing out slowly through the mouth. And just relax. So do you see the difference there? So as humans with our brains, we tend to be able to flip-flop back and forth between focusing on problems and things around us because that brain's filtering, and flip-flop back into peace. When people are on vacation, they tend to find peace. When people are finally, out of work, they find peace. But the real truth, the real thing about this life and this world is learning to find peace when you're at work. So that when you're at the vacation, it's just a cherry on top, right? Learning to find peace when things are wild and chaotic, so that when things are even greater and smooth, it's like, well, you already felt great. You just get to feel even greater. And I think a lot of people in our society have been conditioned to think that that's not normal, or it's not acceptable to be feeling okay about things when they're not like on vacation, or when they're not in like a space where they can just fully relax. But the truth is, like, we need to get fully relaxed. We need to chill, because like I said before, this collective energy that we all experience, we all feed off each other. And so the more we can start to hold this space, the more it's going to totally transform our way of being in the world and how we operate, how we think, how we act. On top of that, on a personal level, when you learn to master your mind, and this is probably why I said in the beginning, I teach people learning to control and master their mind, because ultimately it affects the body in a really positive way when they do that. When you learn to really control the mind and get yourself out of that sympathetic nervous system, which is like our filtering system of just like do, fix. When you can kind of step out of that, it actually allows your body and your immune system to be so healthy. It actually allows you to have control over your immune system. It's called being in the parasympathetic nervous system. And it allows you to get into a state where you can actually increase your immunities, increase your immune system. So just on the most simplistic level, you should be doing this for you at this time to stay as safe and as healthy as possible. So I highly recommend you learn. And, there's tons of ways to do this stuff, to really learn to master your mind. So you got to find what feels best to you. For some people, it can start by going out into nature and sitting in nature for 10, 20 minutes a day. Some people, they like to journal. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to go scream off a mountain. Whatever it is, to get that mind out of that state. But you have to learn to bring that energy into your everyday life too. So that's why I always like to recommend some form of meditation. It really helps me, just 5 minutes here and there, just tap in, relax, get back to my state. And I feel so great all the time. Because what we don't realize is when we're not controlling our minds, if you're not controlling your mind, then something else will control it. Whether it's technology, whether it's some other chaotic scenario going off in the world, whether it's you not really realizing that you're obsessed with a bunch of things that maybe aren't really helping you. So you've got to get yourself in a place where you can truly understand what feels best to you and where you want to go in this life. Man, that sky's beautiful today. So yeah, think about that and know that that's your mission right now. Your job is to really truly learn to master your mind. And if you need support on that, let me know. I do offer a course called Aligned, and it's all about learning to understand how to master your own vibration, how to understand how to meditate at a deep level, but in a fun and simple way. I'm really big on keeping things really easy and simple, because I think life gets to be something that is fun and flowy, and it doesn't mean you won't do hard work at times, but it does mean that usually when you're like overwhelmed, and the reason people aren't learning things is because they think they're too complex. And they're really not that complex. Maybe there's consistency involved, maybe there's a time period of growth that needs to happen, but it's not too complex. It just takes getting a little bit of a habit built. So that's what we talk a lot about in Aligned, is how to do these things simply, easily, so you can move forward and have the benefits I'm talking about. So anyways, you can always hit me up on that. Of course, there's so many free resources on YouTube with meditation, guided meditations, just how to control your mind, how to release emotions, everything. It's time to do that work. So start now. Don't wait. If you don't control your mind, something else will. And that's the key. You have freedom. You have control over your mind, over your immunities, over your health, over your happiness, over your life. You have to be the leader for you. Okay? Let's get going. Love you all. Have a great day.